What's the cruelest prank you've ever seen? One of the guys on my high school track team was pantsed directly in front of the girls from the team. He wasn't wearing underwear. The person who pantsed him was one of his close friends. 20 years ago, a friend of mine was prank kidnapped on Halloween. Driven to a cornfield and left tied up and blindfolded for an hour. Was not funny. The friends that did this actually got some time in prison. Not so much a prank, but in high school, there was a girl who was a part of the spectrum and she was showing off a dance. And these cheerleaders were clearly laughing at her. The thing is that the girl didn't realize they were making fun of her. They told her to do it again just so they could laugh more. The TV show WB Superstar from the early 2000s. It was a show like American Idol, but they were actually looking for the worst singers. But they told the contestants they were looking for the best singers until the very end of the competition, when they revealed the truth to the winner after their final performance in front of a live audience. Very cruel show. There was that YouTube family that was like Daddy of Five or something, where one of the kids was literally abused constantly. They would do horrible shit to this boy and then say it was a prank for the channel, and he would be absolutely destroyed and scream he hated YouTube. Anything done as a prank for YouTube? That's almost as bad as child abuse pranking for YouTube. I remember when the ALS challenge was popular, I read an article about a prank played on a special needs high schooler. These kids told him it was just water in the bucket, but it was also piss, cigarette butts, all sorts of disgusting shit. Then they put the video all over the internet, as though the bucket wasn't enough. The girl who hid her boyfriend's wheelchair on YouTube that shit wasn't funny. A girl wrote an elaborate letter pretending to be another girl in class and handed it to me. I was shocked to receive my first love letter and felt like garbage when I found out it was fake. A friend of a friend in high school had her boyfriend pretend that he died. He had one of his friends call her saying he had died in a car accident and had someone else calling up pretending to be a doctor from the hospital. She was hysterical. Later that day, after she kept asking the fake doctor which hospital it was so she could be there, she found out it was all prank to see if she cared. Horrible. Anyway, they broke up. To this day it's the nastiest prank I've seen in person. I was 14 and going out to eat with my first girlfriend and my mom at Gym Boys. Just like 90% of 14-year-old males, I suffered from acne pretty bad. We were eating and having a good time and out of nowhere my mom looks to my girlfriend and asks, "Do you like popping bumps?" My eyes widened. She knew I horrified by her question. My girlfriend just got quiet and her face went red. She then proceeds to say, "What? It's not like she can't see them, and you need someone to do something about them." Then laughed. Then got mad no one else thought it was funny and ruined the rest of the evening. I could never understand doing something like that to my child. Darren Brown, English illusionist, did a TV show a few years ago. Long story short, he convinced a young lad who had got really drunk the night before that he had killed a girl. They set him up so bad. Psychologically, it looked like they had broken this poor lad, to the point where everything they had set up, actors, set, fake police etc., made the lad so convinced that he had killed someone, that he handed himself in to the fake police station and admitted to a murder. I'll never forget the one tear trickling down this kid's face and the devastation at what he thought he had done. Then bloody Darren Brown appears from behind a screen like, surprise. It was frocking cruel and has stuck with me for a long time. I've actually found a link to it. YouTube. BAZTLW0XWOK. I remember seeing a video where they switched the pregnancy test to a fake positive one on their friend, struggling with infertility. Frocked up. I was once prank called by someone, a classmate presumably, and they told me they were going to kill my best friend who was in the same class as me. It was really frocking weird. The school never figured out who it was. They just asked if my friend had any enemies. Bro, we are 11. The Daddy 05 YouTuber pranks. Those weren't pranks. They were child abuse. My dad told me that when he was a kid, a friend of his gave him a glass of lemonade. It was Drano mixed with something else and my dad vomited for hours. Thankfully he survived and went on to have kids, but his vocal cords were never the same. A friend of mine faked her suicide to get back at her boyfriend for April Fool's Day. I had helped her without knowing she was going that far. Her boyfriend had called her a salute and dumped her when she told him she was pregnant. Don't miss living in college dorms. Don't miss either of them. A group of 5 boys decided to throw rocks from an overpass at the cars below. One of the rocks ended up going through a car's windshield and killed the driver. The boys got charged with second-degree murder. When I was a kid, somehow my classmates found it funny to piss in other people's cans of soda. I did not have a good childhood. Seen a video of 2 small girls. One told the other to look at the doorknob really close as it distorts your face. She then slammed the door right into her face, hitting her teeth. Someone asked a guy to be her boyfriend. He said yes, and the next day she invited all her friends to tell him that she did it as a joke. Saw a guy tip over the porta potty with someone in it. That memory is clear. I think it was his GF. I just got pregnant. Aren't you happy for me? Said on April 1st in front of a woman who had a stillbirth a month before. The first time I met my brother's new girlfriend, she pulled me aside and started crying. She told me that she was pregnant, but my brother wasn't ready to tell anyone. She asked me to check up on him cause he was really nervous. A couple days go by and I texted her to see how she was doing and if my brother was doing okay and if they needed anything. She asked me what I was talking about. I said the baby. She replied, "Oh, you believed me. I was only joking. I'm not pregnant. I can't believe you fell for that. This wasn't some teenager either. She was approximately 30. Yes, I told my brother. Yes. He still ended up marrying her. Almost 10 years later I still refuse to trust her." The Labyrinth family vloggers told their 5-yo-step daughter a few years ago that they were going to have to get rid of their dog because it wasn't behaving well around the baby as an April's Fool joke and posted it on YT. My brother gave my phone number to some rando, who proceeded to call me at all hours and threatened to rape me. A group of girls at my high school told a girl that they were hanging out at one of their houses at 9 near a train station, but they really just made up a time and place that would make her stranded at the last train stop with no more trains home. In college, at the end of the year, a club I was in had a roast of the outgoing seniors. My friend running the roast couldn't come up with anything for one of the guys, let's call him Ben, to drum up ideas. He called a bunch of Ben's close friends, also in the club, and asked them for things to make fun of Ben about. Thinking this was a confidential conversation, they proceed to absolutely lay into Ben. The guy is seriously lame. Honestly, when I'm talking to a girl and he is there, it is supremely awkward. My friend simply recorded that whole conversation and played it outright for Ben's section of the roast, mortifying Ben and all his friends simultaneously. In middle school I was not popular at all. I was an overweight girl with acne and a really weird personality. Popular boys would come up to me all the time to ask me out only to laugh in my face no matter the answer. It happened so often that all the other students started to notice and ignore me completely, so they didn't get grouped into all the cruel joke the boys pulled. In high school, someone made a pipe bomb and sneakily threw it into a metal trash can. One of my friends unknowingly walked by when it exploded and blew out his eardrum. The trash can looked like a peeled banana afterward. That person was ratted out and expelled. Kid was arrested afterwards. Saw him 10 years later working at a car wash. All of this happened in 1997. Any prank involving pretending to ask someone on a date that I witnessed in my youth group. It was pretty common. Everyone had it happen at least once. And it happened to me twice, but both times I found the guy repulsive and told them so. Any of those super dumb pranks that people do to fast food workers. My ex-friend thought it was a funny prank to kill my brother's hamster and tie it up and dress it in ridiculous ways. As a school prank, the neighboring high school adopted a bloodhound our school's mascot killed and left it on the ground in front of the school. Their only punishment was canceling prom. Saw a kid at high school cafeteria spend 20 minutes removing seeds from jalapenos and chopping up the seeds until he had a handful. He walked over to a different table and threw the handful of sliced up seeds into the face of another kid. Friend of mine had a crush on his coworker. It was sort of an open secret. His manager tried to help him, offered advice, some things to say, small gifts she might be into, etc. What no one knew at the time was that said manager and said coworker had recently started dating and hadn't told anyone yet. So he meant it as a prank on his new girlfriend to be put into these awkward situations. But my friend's feelings were really hurt when it all came out. I put meatballs in the chute for the ice maker, so when my roommate went to get some ice his glass filled up with meatballs. In middle school, a girl came up to us on the playground and told this dude to go see the principal. He's looking for you. He got a call that your mom died. Then as soon as the dude ran away, she told us all she just made it up. It was frocking horrible. Happened to me. Was at my first school dance in middle school. Was always the shy kid, so I was surprised when one of the popular chicks came to ask me to dance. I said no because I was shy, but I was elated that I got asked. A few minutes later I'm in the bathroom stall and a few kids come in and start talking about how they paid her $10 to ask me. And if I said yes, she would have just tripped me and made me look dumb. I never went to another dance all throughout middle and high school. Even prom. My friends decided that it would be hilarious to slip me false love letters from a secret admirer until they pull the plug at year's end. I've had trust issues ever since. Had a girl messaging me some lyrics to a song. Looked like she was trying to admit to having feelings, but when I said I liked her back, she said it was just for a TikTok. I told her it was pretty annoying, and then she started saying that she actually did like me and she was sorry. But turns out that was just for her take screenshots and post those too. I don't know if that counts as a prank, but catfishing seems like it can be pretty damaging to young people. Happened to me. At middle school I was very naive and a boy from my class kept flirting with me and everybody was pushing me to ask him out. But I was very shy. After a while, he asked me to be his BF during gym class. And all of my girl friends from class told me to say yes. BC he really liked me and etc. Turns out, after I did say yes, A told me that it was all a prank. And almost everyone in the class had participated in convincing me that it was real. Just why man, I had so much trouble in trusting people again. And for years I turned a really brave and tough facade to avoid that ever happening again. Makes me think sometimes about how kids are really the worst. At my school we used to do senior pranks. They were all approved by the teachers and were good fun. Well, a separate group of seniors wanted to do a second prank, and they ended up setting off a smoke bomb in the cafeteria. The whole cafeteria had to be evacuated. No more senior pranks for us. I remember years ago I saw a prank on YouTube gather attention for being genuinely cruel. These guys kidnapped their friend in black outfit, ski mask setups, tying his hands and feet, blocking his eyes, and throwing him in a car. They then took him to a rooftop and tied him to a chair and were talking about the ways they were going to torture and eventually kill him. They'd be bringing up personal things as well to freak him out even more. The guy was genuinely frocking terrified. You could tell. The bawling, babbling kind of panic attack. Of course his friends then untied him and revealed themselves saying it was a prank, but they did the damage and the guy wanted nothing to do with them. Who frocking would? I don't have a specific example in my life, but I've always thought those fake lottery tickets are cruel. Those people think their life is going to change, and then it's all yanked away from them while people laugh. Same energy as when a parent gifts their kid something in the box for an iPad, Switch, something expensive and fancy, but it's really something city and lame inside. The entire joke is, haha, you thought your dreams were coming true. But then they didn't. Look at us. A bunch of kidders. To toy with your emotions like that. When I was in 8th grade, a thing called turtling and zip tying backpacks were popular. Well, one day early in the year on the bus ride home, a kid decided to zip tie a 6th grader's backpack to the leg of the chair, which is welded to the floor. When he got up to leave and realized his backpack was stuck, he started panicking trying to get it undone and eventually had to leave the backpack, and he was stressing out saying his mom was going to freak out on him. He looked like he was about to cry. Bunch of roommates. When one went on vacation, changed the locks and plastered over the door of his room. When he came back they pretended not to know him, denied he ever lived there, and when he wanted to show them his room there was just a blank wall where the door used to be. They kept this up for 3 days. We had a roast for my buddy in college that was supposed to be a lot of fun. My roommate decided to go after his ex-girlfriend the entire time during his speech instead of our buddy, which is a kind of funny concept. It ended up being a drunken therapy session for him where he aired out all the most personal aspects of their relationship to a room of 50 people. He ended the speech by throwing multiple pairs of panties she left at his house into the crowd. She was so mortified she called the police. Most awkward party ever. When they gave that raccoon the cotton candy. Bastards. Making someone believe that they have won the lottery and crush their happy feelings afterwards. This is the most cruel thing I can imagine. Making someone really happy and make them realize that it was all a lie. I was a huge Led Zeppelin fan growing up, and obviously my dad knows this. One day I got a message from him saying he had just met Robert Plant in a shop and Plant had invited me to come sit in for a studio session. I was naturally super excited and told some of my friends about it. I couldn't wait. An hour later, my dad told me he had made it all up. He's done worse things. But this one still cuts deep because of how mean-spirited and unnecessary it was. Russian YouTuber was arrested after locking his pregnant girlfriend outside in Russian winter wearing only her underwear. She died of hypothermia right on their balcony. My husband gave me a fake lottery ticket, with win results of $50. I scratched it off, not knowing it was fake. Saw the results and walked over to him, handed him the ticket and said, "This is for you." Then he had to confess his cruel joke. Never got a thank you for being a stand-up person. Jerk. I used to work on tugboats. Some deckhand brought a bottle of liquid ass spray aboard. Said deckhand proceeded to use said spray. Try as we might, we couldn't seem to get rid of the smell. 5 guys. 3 months. A tugboat bathed in liquid ass. I do not miss that job. Edit. Looks like my top comment is about liquid ass spray. Never change, folks. Never change. I saw a prank on YouTube where the whole family pretended they were dead. YouTube can be a bit messed up sometimes. When I was approximately 14, my mum and dad went out for the night on the 31st of March, leaving me to babysit. Wanting to get an April Fool's on them, I left the front door open and convinced my younger brother and sister to hide. Hid the TV and staged a robbery, kidnap. When my mum screamed, I came rushing to fess up, but 24 years later she still claims it was the worst moment of her life. There was a radio contest some years ago in my city. You would call up and nominate someone. The radio show hosts would show up and destroy some of you sit and give you money, like a couch, bike and a computer. Hearing the show host ignore the guy's screams to leave his computer alone was enough to get me to stop listening to that station. When I was in high school, a group of football players told this unpopular guy on the team that a super popular and attractive girl was really interested in him. She played along and got him to handcuff himself to a chair, naked, so she could come into the room and do naughty things with him. Turns out, this was an elaborate prank, and as soon as he was cuffed to the chair, the football players who tricked this guy ran into the room and took pictures and made fun of him, calling him all manner of bad names and shaming his member size, etc. A couple weeks later, the guy who cuffed himself to the chair committed suicide. Like 1 month before graduation. Rip Joe. Frock you Nathan. A friend of mine bought a fake diamond ring one Valentine's Day and slipped it into someone else's glass in a restaurant. People he didn't know. Just to watch a woman freak out and her date freak out equally as much. He had just gone through a bitter divorce. I wasn't there. Heard about it later. Apparently he did it a few more times randomly. BC, he thought it was frocking glorious. My cousin's uncle gave his gay nephew knee pads for Christmas, and all 45 gathered family members belly chuckled while him and his boyfriend stood there with a sad look on their faces. When I was in primary, it was the last day of my school before I graduated, and I got to school early. I thought I was first to enter the class since it was dark, but when I entered, half of my classmates jump-scared me. My classmates all knew I had a weak heart and difficulty breathing. So after the scare, I fell to the ground and had trouble breathing and was crying. My friends laughed at me and called me a crybaby and just walked away. Till this day I distance myself from my classmates and always have earphones in so I don't hear people scaring me. Currently in uni. Some kids wrapped their classmate in plastic wrap after the teacher left. Kid ended up slipping and breaking his neck on a desk and dying. Brother-in-law is former army. Did his time but can be called back for a few years. Works with several other former military people. He'd been home about a year. Built his house and adopted a cat. Bought a car and got all set up for his life. As whole co-workers got a hold of a recall letter and photoshopped it with Bill's information and sent it to him. So he gets this official looking letter from the army recalling him. He's freaking out because what's gonna happen to his house? Who's going to care for his cat? Just really upset as anyone would be. Then they point out that his reporting officer is Mickey Mouse or something stupid they put in there. He was frocking pissed for a while. As he should have been. Frocking his holes. Asking people out on a dare. In like 3rd grade we would play Oreo, which was where you'd play rock, paper, scissors, and if you lost, the victor would dare you to ask someone out as a prank. If they said yes, you'd tell them you lost at Oreo, meaning the date was void. My first crush had to ask me out on a dare, and it was so awful because it was a moment I replayed over and over. Remember that kidnapping prank that really kickstarted this whole trend of frocking cruel sit? That one. By far. At my last office job, they pulled a prank on the newest member of the team by making him think he was fired. One of the VPs of the company was in on it and set up a 9 a.m. meeting with him first in the morning. Then some of the other guys packed up his things into boxes and left it on his desk like that for him to find in the morning before his meeting. When I found out about it, I thought it was a bit funny back then. But now that I'm older, I realize just how cruel it was, and the poor guy probably went through a lot that morning. My friends decided to ask out the most popular girl in middle school on my behalf. I did not have interest in her at all. And I was subsequently ridiculed by most of the school. They never even told me they'd done it. Just all of a sudden I was an outcast and didn't know why. So that hurt my ability to socialize for a long time. School was my escape from home and they ruined that. Demi Lovato paid a prostitute to sexually assault one of her employees as a prank. Edit. To anyone more concerned with using proper pronouns than the sexual assault of an employee, get your shit together and find out what you did to sink so low as a human. Ooh, I've got one. When my brother was coming back from middle school, he saw a huge line around the block close to our house. We lived in a metropolitan city. My brother asks a random guy what the line is for. Guy says it's to see the Harry Potter cast. My brother says cool and jumps in the back of the line. And waits for almost 2 hours. He gets to the front of the line to find out it was to set up interviews for a job fair. My brother comes back home embarrassed and in tears. I was so mad at the asshole who tricked my kid brother that day. My first girlfriend put me through these little pranks if I didn't text her often. One time she said she would be moving to my school, then a week later told me she wasn't and I started to tear up. Another time she told me she had a dead boyfriend that was texting me, assisted by her sister, whilst I was swimming in a pool on my best friend's birthday. I remember she did another prank, but I couldn't remember it. These put me through some mental pain. Believe it or not, at least my boyfriend after that was much better than her and didn't do the same thing. Not the cruelest, but I had a coworker call and tell me that my services were no longer required. I believed it for a minute. I started getting upset on the phone and my coworker realized she needed to fess up and tell me it was a joke. I didn't find it funny. This incident happened a long time ago and I didn't do anything about it. If this incident happened today, my coworker would be explaining her actions to our. I think it was on an Opie and Anthony episode where they bought a homeless guy a cake and then stomped it in front of him. Frock those guys. Even if it was staged. It's a really shitty thing to put out into the world, especially as humor. Planting someone's face on the cake on their birthday. If that happened to me on my birthday, regardless of what day it is, you bet violence will ensue. I have two. My sister's manipulative and abusing ex pranked her in school and broke up with her. She was so sad and scared that she ran out of class and threw up. They broke up a few days later. Second is in grade 6 at lunch a couple kids went on the intercom and called a girl to the office because her mom was there to pick her up. Her mother had died the year previous and they knew that. Not sure why I decided to read the comments here. Every prank here just makes me angry. Pouring water on strangers. A senior coworker told a new coworker to shut down his computer and that the manager wanted to talk to him, made him think he was getting fired. The guy took it well, but he actually did end up getting fired months later. A girl put a used tampon in a guy's backpack. He was just a religious dude. He was super nice, didn't at all deserve that. Frock you Stacy. My ex-wife, before we were exes, left me a voicemail on April Fool's Day breaking up with me and saying that she's filing a divorce and staying with her parents and won't be home when I get there. I didn't realize it was April 1st. She then proceeded to go into meetings for the rest of the day and completely forgot about it, therefore completely ghosted my calls, emails, and texts trying to figure out what the frock was going on. She thought it was funny. She is also a major cunt, and if I were smart and knew what I know now, I would have been thankful and used that as my chance to get the frock out of there. In high school, half of my group of friends were on a basketball trip and the others were at my house. We were all guys and we were friends with a group of girls. If it matters, at some point one of my friends decided that he would convince them that the bus crashed and one of our friends was dead. This was before smartphones. Slightly. And he told the friend that was supposedly dead to not answer his phone. This wasn't like a quick, hey, the bus crashed and he is dead, which itself is pretty frocked up, but what he actually did was give them pieces of information at a time, so it seemed like it was happening over time. He told them he was in the hospital and then eventually he died. Guy the first work with told another coworker, who is likely on the autism spectrum, that his car was vibrating because the lug nuts were too tight. Guy's wheel came off in traffic. No one was injured, but it frocked up his truck. Remember reading a post. An older woman's husband had just died and it was going to be her first Xmas without him. It was extra hard because Xmas was her absolute fav holiday and she always went all out. Her adult children and their spouses came over. True to form, the mom had decorated the whole house and cooked a huge meal. IRC, they did a sort of secret Santa where each person gets a gift for one other person. The newest spouse, who was the BF of the youngest daughter IRC, decided to get the mom only a $2 Beanie Baby or similar. Everyone laughed and waited for him to present the real gift. That was the real gift. So on this woman's first Xmas without her husband after slaving away, she was given only a Beanie Baby. Apparently the mom never went all out for Xmas again. I had a friend who tricked her husband with one of those fake positive pregnancy tests. He felt very strongly about not being ready for kids, but she was getting adamant about things being her way. He was freaking out and she played along with it for a few days, asking everyone in the group to play along. Either one of us or a family member told him she was pranking, which got him so upset he almost ended the marriage. I get disagreements, but there are better ways to discuss having kids than by playing a malicious prank. It's caused him to not trust her and she blew up on the rest of us for exposing her. Fun times. Shutting off an apartment's water just for laughs while someone is showering and covered in soap. There is probably a special place in hell for those who prank, exploit homeless people or employers who deprive workers of just wages. I lived in Alaska from 7 to 14. When I was 13, we took a class hiking trip. There were flags marking the trail we were supposed to take. Me and my friends thought it would be funny to switch the flags so people got lost. I didn't realize at the time how stupid it was. Anyways, a bunch of people ended up getting lost for a few hours and the cops had to form a search party to find them. This was on a military base. The principal screamed at me. My parents screamed at me and grounded me for 2 months. Not super cruel but frocked up nonetheless. Thankfully no one got too lost or hurt. When I was in high school, the group of popular girls would play pranks on each other by finding some weird-looking autistic acting guy, the weirder the better, and tell him that one of their friends liked him and that he should go up and talk to her at a certain time when they were all together so they could laugh at their friend's reaction to it. One of these girls wasn't very subtle with her humor and just straight up shoved the guy into her friend when he walked up to her so he'd fall into her and embarrass himself. They put crazy glue on the toilet seat and managed to glue a special needs student to the seat. They had to take the seat off and take the student to the hospital.